The question for this week is whether or not the dollar will continue to pull back, or if this pullback is about to explode to new highs off of a continuously hawkish Fed. In today's video, we're going to be looking at trade setups for the week ahead, including USD pairs, gold, and some GBP and Euro pairs as well. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and let's jump into some trade setups for this week ahead. Okay, so taking a look at the dollar, what I want to show you guys here is that the dollar was pretty resilient around this 104 level. In fact, I was kind of looking to potentially get long on the dollar should we see a retest of these previous lows around 103.5, but we never got it. And in fact, ended the week right around that 104 mark. To me, this area is still bullish until proven otherwise, and here's partially why. If you take a look at the higher time frames, just the daily chart view for a second, the dollar is incredibly strong, and I'm just not going to be the person to sort of try and short this thing until we have good reason to do so. I'm still bullish biased on the US dollar, looking for more upside, but I'm not going to trade the US dollar specifically, the currency index. I'm going to trade individual currency pairs. So let's jump into some individual charts and see what's going on with things like the EURUSD. EURUSD, I would have to have a short bias on because I am, again, sell biased on the euro, buying biased on the US dollar. In fact, I actually do like this area that we previously tested right around 105.8. In fact, if the price retests this area, I'm not totally opposed to the idea of potentially joining into the short trade here, looking for a possible continuation back down to the previous low on the EURUSD. So I like this idea a lot. We have a little bit of a counter trend going on right now. So the euro dollar bulls have tried to hold their own here, but again, just trusting more in the overall downward trend, I'm going to be looking for a break back down towards the previous low. And the question then from there will be, can we in fact break this, get down to the lows, and more importantly, can we create a new low? I believe that's a yearly low. Let me check. Yep, that's the low of the year. So this point that we're talking about, targeting the previous low, is the starting point. But really, if the euro continues to be weak against the dollar this year, the euro dollar very well could put in new lows, and anticipating that opportunity could present some excellent risk reward trading setups. So I like that a lot. If price does retest that, EURUSD could be an opportunity to look to sell at resistance. So that might be something that I'm looking out for this week. So we'll keep tabs on that. In fact, I also wanted to show this on our market scanner. I think euro dollar was pretty up there. So let's take a look. So if we scroll down, EURUSD comes out at a -4 on the market scanner this week. So if we take a look at EURUSD specifically, what we can see is that it's rating very, very low in several categories. It gets a sell signal and a -4. So that's going to have a bias to the sell side. These are scanning for several metrics. So let me just pull this up on a bigger scale so that we can see it. There we go. So it's loading in. Now the EURUSD, so again, it gets a -4 overall. And when we look at the chart, again, as price retests this area, this would be, in my personal opinion, an opportunity to potentially get short with a good risk to reward opportunity. I think that that presents a nice setup. I do prefer the dollar over the euro at this time. And if we take a look at the chart metric here, so this is the breakdown on the edge finder for the EURUSD. What we can see is that the commitment of traders data, very long biased for the USD. You can see the US dollar from institutional positions is 86% of contracts open on the futures market are long on the dollar, whereas a whopping only 14% are short. So very, very bullish on USD still. So willing to buy the dollar, short the euro at this time under that category. We move on to the next category. The crowd here. What's the crowd doing? This can be useful information. If we know that the crowd is 62% long on EURUSD, then I'm going to be generally biased towards being in the minority of that crowd. It's not trying to be better than anybody else. It's just that we know that the crowd tends to lose money. And if they're all piled into longs, we got to be careful and probably biased towards the short side. So we'll go with that. Seasonality is next. We could take a look at the month of June, and June is basically break even for EURUSD historically. So not too much there, but still gets a negative. I guess it's slightly negative for the month. Trend reading. So we have a slight negative downward trend. So that gets a -1. GDP and inflation favor the euro area, as we saw a decline in the US. However, unemployment is favored in the US, and interest rates are definitely favored in the US with a 1.75 bias towards the US dollar. So lots of metrics telling us, okay, I like the EURUSD short. By the way, the tool I just showed you is called the Edge Finder, and we are doing a summer sale right now. If you want to get 40% off of that tool, you can get access down below in the description punch in the code there, YTVIP, in the description down below. Punch that code in, and what you're going to do is you're going to get access to a super discounted rate. So there you go. Take advantage of that down below. Again, the summer sale is going on right now for a couple more days for the Edge Finder and also for membership. You can get, if you use YTVIP for gold membership, the link will be down below in the description for that. You can also get 40% off, which is a major discount. And again, that's for our summer discount. Next up is GBP USD. So here's pound dollar. Pound dollar also, I believe, falls on the lower category here. And let's see. So pound dollar gets a strong sell. And what we can see is if we start out down below here, very similar to the euro dollar. The crowd is 69% long and 31% short. So that's a bias towards being on the short side. And then COT actually gets even more credit here towards the sellers. Take a look at this. USD very strong, as we already saw, but GBP also very, very short bias by institutional traders. Very interesting information on the GBP pairs. So I like that for a possible short GU. So also one thing I should say, there is still a slight bias towards the US in terms of interest rates and a couple other things that you can kind of pause the video if you'd like to take a look at the full metric. So again, pound dollar looking like a possible short setup this week. Where would be the place to get short? Well, if price pops up into levels of resistance here, I like this for possible sells, and then maybe a bit more of a conservative entry would be a retest of this structure that we saw right around 1.25. Both of those areas would be points in which case I could set up a sell trade, you know, maybe something like this. And this is kind of how I would craft one of my bigger opportunities, right? So I could potentially take two positions, but you know, for me, what I tend to actually end up doing with my trades is I like to trail stops, but I like to demonstrate target areas with these tools just to show viewers who may trade differently than me, just like where I'm thinking, what I'm paying attention to. So you could kind of set up a similar scenario here. And again, if this trade were to come in, that would be some excellent risk to reward. And then of course, incredible risk to reward should we get something like that. But again, I like sell setups, and we have a couple ideas here that we're playing around with. We have this area at the previous structure high that we made this week. And then of course, that big shelf point where we saw the drop off on GU. So if price comes back up into that area, the first reaction, in my personal opinion, would be, okay, look out for sells, as this area was very weak for the sellers last time. So we'll keep tabs on that. GU looking very interesting going into this week. Speaking of GU, let's look at GJ, which also is another interesting currency pair right now. This one I'm not so bearish on because I actually am really quite bearish on the yen. In fact, we'll take a look at GJ, see what this one's got. So this one actually has just a slight bias towards the buy side. Of course, a neutral reading is nothing crazy, but what I would watch out for the pound yen bulls is I know a lot of you guys who trade the markets here actively like to look at GU. We got resistance here. If we can break out of that this week, keep tabs on that because that could be really interesting. I like GJ long. I just need to see it show signs of a breakout, right? We've struggled to get past this point here more than once. So now the question is, can we get the break? Can we get strength past levels of resistance? And in that case, that's my favorite sort of setup, would be breaking out, retesting, and looking for the trend continuation. In fact, if we take a look at the daily chart on GJ, you can see that we're floating around the highs. We tried several times to poke through this high if we extend that level out. Now, we just really need to see on the lower time frames some sort of explosive move past those lows, or sorry, those highs, and then any sort of pullback to me would be bullish opportunities, in my personal opinion. I like GJ long. It's mostly just a bearish bias towards the yen at this time. If we go back to the score chart summary here, let's see if we can find some more ideas. Euro yen is another one I got to talk about. So we talked about euro dollar. So I like the dollar better, but when we cross the euro against the yen, I like the euro better. In fact, in this case, if we're looking out for this, it's a very similar scenario to what we talked about with pound yen. For people who have been asking me about euro yen and pound yen, I need to see something like this, right? A breakout, retest. I was actually watching euro yen at this area and this area to see if we could break through these highs, and we did not get it. So that failure there at those levels was like, okay, I want to be long in these pairs, but I can't do it until we get a break of structure. So looking at the 4-hour chart, Again, watch out for this. If you think we're headed up here, maybe there's some intraday stuff that you could take advantage of in that area. But for the swing traders, again, breaks, retests, continuations, that's what I personally am interested in. And I really like the fact that we printed a nice low here last week. We didn't end the week low. We ended the week pushing off of the lows. Very, very strong there. So especially with a strengthening stock market, I think that these pairs could see some more upside. Here's the S&P 500, which had an incredibly strong week last week, actually ended up at resistance, and huge question mark for the risk on swing that we saw last week. This area, huge question mark, because as we come up into a major level of resistance like this, the market's going to be wondering, are we just going to fade back down and go right back down into risk off? This would be risk off area. Or are we going to break out and see risk on? Because if this breaks out, I'm definitely, that would be a beautiful risk on move, because then we could potentially be headed to retest levels like this. And that gives us a lot of room for more risk on sentiment coming into the market. That could mean buying things like Aussie pairs, GBP pairs, NZD, CAD, whereas this could lean towards more USD bullishness, CHF, JPY, right? So kind of a scenario where, you were looking at the stock market, yet talking about currencies. The thing is here, you guys, if you're a trader and you trade long enough, you realize that markets all speak to one another. If you trade currencies, you trade, by extension, you're involved in the S&P 500, right? They're all sort of interconnected in some way or another. But anyways, back to some of the currency pairs. USDJPY is next here. Let's take a look at dollar yen. So dollar yen, I like it long. I really wanted to buy it this week, in fact. I was kicking myself because I wanted to buy it around here, but I didn't. I liked this little pullback here. I was like, I know this is pretty aggressive, but I could put a stop on my trade, and I never got around to actually placing the trade. I know that sounds like, oh, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I really was thinking about it. I did catch some good trades this week. We had the Cad Yen trade close out for a very nice profit. So in fact, what I'll do is I'll show you guys that, and let me brag for a second. Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up on the screen for you. So here we go. So I shared this trade inside of our group, and you can kind of see what's been happening. So Cad Yen, I entered into, where's Cad Yen? Cad Swiss, Cad Yen. So I bought Cad Yen off of a pullback intraday on the 30-minute chart, and price just rallied and rallied and rallied and rallied. You can see it was just up massively. It was a really great trade. I really was having a great time with it while it was there, and then ended up closing out on a once it started breaking back down the other direction, I stopped out. Again, remember, we got our summer sale going on, so take advantage of the 40% off discount that is linked down below in the description if you want to join the Discord or get access to our software tool, the Edge Finder. Both of those are on summer sale for huge discounts right now. So Cad Yen, here, breakdown of my trade just for a second. I bought down in, I believe it was like right around here. Held, closed out right here, and then price continued to get worse. So I'm glad that it probably would have almost gotten back down to my break-even point. So I'm glad that I got out of that trade, and then it started rallying again. So perhaps if we see some strength and retest here this week, I could potentially look to re-enter. I still like this thing long. In fact, let's see, is it still printing high up on the list? Ooh, it's not so strong anymore. Something must have changed in the metrics. So possibly putting that one on the sidelines then for a second. We'll come back to that, look at it in more closer detail at another point. USD CAD, USD Yen is another buy on the list. So let's look at dollar yen. We were talking about it for a second. So I do like dollar yen, and if it retests these structure levels this week, I may look to maybe jump back into a trade here. Yeah, I don't hate it. I want to be a buyer of dollar yen. I like this area. This level has been holding very well. You can see several instances where sellers attempted to try and take this thing lower, and buyers have been pretty resilient. So if that double, or I guess at this point, triple retests this area, I potentially could look to get long with a nice stop below structure in case I'm incorrect about that move. I want to give myself a little bit of room to run, and we'll go from there. So I do like that trade. We'll keep tabs on dollar yen for pullback buys, again with a bullish bias, trend still to the upside, and not trying to call tops. So dollar yen on a retest could be interesting. It's a bit of an aggressive one because dollar yen has gone parabolic this year. But looking at the daily chart, you can see here's the recent rally, but the rally extends all throughout this year. You can see from basically January onwards, we've just been bullish on the dollar yen like crazy. In fact, dollar yen has gone from an exchange rate of around 115 to 135. That's a massive change for a currency cross. So just wild out there. Let's take a look at gold, another popular commodity to discuss. A lot of people like trading gold. So let's take a look at gold on the 1 hour chart here for a second. So for you guys who pay attention to gold, what I want to say is in terms of right now what we're seeing a really, really choppy gold market. Like every sort of attempt to become exciting becomes really boring for gold. And I maintain my desire here to buy gold on a big break in anticipation of potential recession talks coming ahead. If that continues to be a threat to markets, then breakout buys and retests I love, because again I'm anticipating more fear and recession and all that sort of stuff. If that continues to happen, then gold I believe has potential to make a run up back to the previous highs at some point here in the future. And if we're buying down in these areas, we're buying down anywhere in this range. Longer term, which that's kind of my more approach on gold, longer term, if markets continue to head back up to the previous high, you're talking about excellent returns on that. So for the day traders though, for the more intraday traders out there, what I'd be looking at personally is breaks of this little consolidation phase. Again, we've just seen this thing so choppy and so indecisive and so blatantly boring. We've just been so back and forth. There just hasn't been that many great moves. So for me, looking at gold, I would like to see it break one way or the other. Doesn't matter which way. If it breaks the downside, perhaps there's some momentum here to the downside if the dollar gets strong, things like that. And conversely, if it starts to break like 1845, 1850, perhaps there's some break and retest opportunities to look at this week. Of course, we'll probably cover gold on the live streams here throughout the week. If you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe. We do live streams throughout the week, and you can take advantage of some of those ideas. We go live Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. US Eastern. I jump on there, and then we usually have a guest speak as well, and it's a lot of fun. So jump in if you haven't already. But again, gold kind of boring right now. Just not a whole lot of interest there for me. We'll continue to take a look at a couple more pairs here. What's going on with AUDUSD? So Aussie dollar here. Again, benefiting a little bit towards the end of the week with that risk-on move from the S&P 500. Seeing a bump to the upside, Aussie tends to jump a little bit with that. And so where we currently sit, again, if you're bullish on Aussie dollar, in my personal opinion, I need to see breaks, need to see, we're going to sound like a broken record by the end of this, but same stuff applies, right? We see big levels like this. We need breakouts. We need, momentum. And that's what I'm trading. I tend to avoid just trading choppy pairs or ranging pairs. I like to wait for things to be really trending well. That's why, you've kind of seen me recently paying a little bit of attention to the yen pairs, because they're trending very nicely right now, and there's been some beautiful opportunities to trade that. I like CAD long right now as well. It's another personal pair that I like. So just being selfish, let me look at things like CAD Swiss for a second. I don't actually like CAD Swiss long, but again, I mentioned CAD Yen long. I do like this one, especially if we can start breaking structure here, retests, breaks, retests, those sort of things. Very much interested in potentially re-entering my Cad Yen idea that I traded on this last week. I made some good money on that one, so we'll see if we can double back and try and trade that one again. So Cad Yen on the watch list for sure. Nice little higher low here. Beautiful little bounce there towards midweek, and saw some rally with the S&P 500 as well. So I like to see that. Aussie Yen is another one we could take a look at. AUDJPY, see what's going on here. Nice little break. So for the Aussie Yen bulls, we've seen this area kind of be taken out. So perhaps breaks and retests could be in order. But looking at this one on the 1 hour chart, you take a look here, looking left, got some resistance here, got some resistance here. And again, this is what we look for over and over and over. We're looking for structure breaks. We're looking for momentum to pick up, and for things to sort of, you want all the shorts to be rushing to cover their positions and riding that. That's like the cookie cutter idea, right? Of course, easier said than done, but the idea would be looking for big structure points like this to break, and then looking for pullback buys in that opportunity. It's something that we see happen over and over again in markets, and that's primarily what we're looking for on things like Australian dollar versus Japanese yen going into the week ahead. Let's take a look at the Edge Finder one last time, see if there's anything we missed. We've talked about Aussie dollar, pound dollar, euro dollar, Eurocad. Actually, let's look at Eurocad. So Eurocad was one that I traded very heavily this year. So let's look at Eurocad. And going bearish, so left the station without me. I did want to sell this thing, but never really quite got the opportunity to. So I was looking at this. In fact, it was the daily chart level at this point. Daily chart level at resistance up here. I wanted to sell it, never quite got up into our region, so was not able to get into that sell. But looking for continuation, I do think Eurocad could be a move back down to the previous low and possibly even take that out for the year. So Eurocad sells are still my bias there on the currency pair. So we'll keep tabs on Eurocad. I like that one on the short side. So there we go, you guys. I think that's going to wrap up the video today. Remember, take advantage of our 40% off sale if you want the Edge Finder for a major discount, or it says 30%, but you can get 40% off with the links down below in the description for either our Gold VIP membership or the 40% off for the Edge Finder, which is our market software tool. Thank you guys very much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and we will see you back next time. Have a great week.